Hello dear learners, I again welcome you all for this video session of parental preparation. So let us start with the lecture. These are the learning outcomes of today's lecture. After attending this lecture, you will be able to understand general classification of parental preparations and you will be able to explain the components of parental preparation in detail. So, now we will see first the classification of preparation. See, this is the general classification of preparation. We are not going today in much detail, but we will see the general classification. So, generally, these parental preparations are divided into two types: small volume parenteral and large volume parenteral. So what is small volume parenteral? Small volume means what? Whatever preparation we have, it should contain the volume. It's up to 100 ml, or you can say 100 ml or less than 100 ml. And what is large volume parenteral? So whatever preparation we have, it contain more than 100 ml, or you can say 100 ml to 1000 ml of the solution. Now, the small volume parenteral is used for single or multiple use. Means what is single or multiple use? For example, we can use once or we can use multiply. That is a multiple use. For example, eye drops, we can say ophthalmic preparation. And what is large volume parenteral? It is only for single use. Means we can't use multiply. So large volume is for only single use. For example, you can say the IV infusion. Now, drugs means what? Whatever small volume parenteral preparation we are using it to treat some disease. We are using this as a medicament. But what is large volume parenteral? What is the use? It is used to provide the calories, the electrolytes, or you can say the fluid. Means the patient who are not able to eat the food because of some gastrointestinal problems, they can use this kind of large volume parenteral preparation. Now, then in small volume parenteral, we are use preservatives. Because obviously it's used multiply, so we require preservative. But here the preservatives are not used. So this administered through various parenteral routes. Means as we have seen the route of administration, it can provide by any of the route like intravenous, subcutaneous route, intraocular route. Now this large volume parenteral administered through IV infusion technique. So this is the basic difference of small volume parenteral and large volume parenterals. Now we will see in detail the components of parenteral preparation. It's very important. Now for any preparation, formulation, we require first thing, that is API, means active pharmaceutical ingredient or drug. And the next we use some vehicle. But here in this parenteral preparations, we have vehicle as well as added substances. So we will see first what is vehicle. So the solvent system used in the parenteral preparation is known as vehicle, and it's classified as aqueous vehicle or non-aqueous vehicle. We can select the vehicle as per the solubility of our API. Now this non-aqueous solution again divide into two types, miscible and immiscible. Means here miscibility with water, miscible with water and immiscible with water. Now the next is added substances or additives. So what is additives? So the substance added to a product to enhance its stability and are essential for all type of product. it's known as the additives. So here we require the antioxidants, buffers, tonicity contributor, means you can say isotonicity adjusting agents, then suspending agent. If our preparation is suspension, then we require suspending agent, chelating agent, solubilizing weighting agent, surfactant, and antimicrobial agents. So now we will see the vehicle as well as added substances in detail. Okay, so first is aqueous vehicle. Now this is the classification of aqueous vehicle. Means what? Here these are the products we have to use. See, aqueous vehicle means you can say water, but this preparation are a different type of preparation. These are the parenteral preparation. So here we require water but in a sterile condition. That's why here we require first is sterile water for injection. Now what is sterile water injection? So what is sterile preparation? It's a pyrogen free preparation. So what is sterile water injection? It is a pyrogen free and it does not contain antimicrobial agents. That is sterile water injection, means only sterile. It does not have any antimicrobial agents. But the next is bacteriostatic water for injection. Now what is bacteriostatic? What is this word suggests? Static means to prevent the bacterial growth. So to prevent the growth of bacteria, we require antimicrobial agents. So what is BWFI, bacteriostatic water for injection? It is nothing but a sterile water for injection, means a pyrogen free preparation, but it contains one or more antimicrobial agents. Now the next is Ringer's injection. So what is Ringer's injection? So it is a sterile solution of three chemicals. You can say three components, that is sodium chloride, potassium chloride and calcium chloride in water for injection. Now what is the use of Ringer solution? So this type of solution is used as an electrolyte replenisher and the fluid extender, or you can say the vehicle for the other drug. Now the next is the lactate Ringer's injection. Here it's same, both are the Ringer's injection, but what is the difference? Here there is a lactate, means already this three component is there. It has a different quantities of the same three salts, these three salts of the Ringer's injection, and it contains the sodium lactate. That's why it is known as lactate Ringer's injection. Now next is sodium chloride injection. So it is a sterile isotonic solution. Sodium chloride have the isotonicity with our blood plasma. That's why it is used as an isotonic solution. 0.9% NaCl solution is known as isotonic solution. So it is the isotonic solution of chloride in water for injection. It contains no antimicrobial agents. And this solution is used as a sterile vehicle in preparation of the solution, or you can say suspension of the drugs for parenteral administrations. Now next is bacteriostatic NaCl injection. So it have the same sodium chloride injection, but it include one or more suitable antimicrobial agents. So the name bacteriostatic suggests antimicrobial agents. Now we will see the next is non-aqueous vehicle. So non-aqueous vehicle are divided into two types. Miscible means what? It's a water miscible vehicle, and immiscible means water immiscible vehicle. Now what is water miscible vehicle? So these are the examples of water miscible solution. ethanol, glycerin and propylene glycol. They are used as a co-solvent with water for injection to promote the solubility or you can say stability of the preparation. Now next is water immiscible vehicle. So these are the examples of water immiscible vehicle. For example, polyethylene glycol, propylene glycol and fixed oil. Fixed oil, for example, we can use peanut oil, sesame oil, almond oil or you can say arachi's oil. So these are the examples and types of non-aqueous solutions or you can say non-aqueous vehicle. Now additives means you can say the added substances. So we will see in detail the added substances. So first is antimicrobial agents. So what is antimicrobial agents? So you can say antibacterial agents, but it is used in bacteriostatic concentration. Means it will not kill the bacteria, but it prevents the growth of bacteria. That is bacteriostatic concentration. It must be included in the formulation of the product packaged in a multiple dose. For example, whatever preparation we have, it does not contain any bacteria because already it's a sterile preparation and they are pyrogen free. But sometimes because of the physical or chemical situations, we should observe the bacterial growth. So to prevent that particular bacterial growth, we require the antimicrobial agents. So we can use this kind of antimicrobial agents. You can say preservatives. It is used as a preservative and this is the concentration in percentage. So these are the examples which are used as antimicrobial agents in parenteral preparation. You can say benzyl alcohol 5 to 10%, then benzethonium chloride, butyl paraben, propyl paraben and phenol. Next is buffers. So what are buffers? Obviously buffers are added to maintain a pH of any product. So why we require buffer? Why we have to maintain the pH? So to stabilize the solution from a chemical degradation. Sometimes what happen? We observe the changes in a pH during storage. So or you can say from the container, we observe the particles or chemical degradation from the container which are made up of glass, plastic or you can say the rubber closure which release some constituents from the rubber closure or plastic or you can get the degradation and it will react with your solution and it can change the pH. So for that we require buffers. So to stabilize a solution from chemical degradation we require to maintain a pH. Now these are the example of buffers. This kind of buffers we can use in parenteral preparation and this concentration in percentage. So you can use acetic acid, citric acid, adipic acid, malic acid as well as potassium phosphate buffer we can add in parenteral preparations. Now next is tonicity contributors. So what are tonicity means what? Isotonicity. Tonicity contributor means isotonicity adjusting agents. So before understanding this, we have to understand what is isotonicity. So first we will see what is isotonicity and we will see what are the type of solution. So a solution containing 0.9% of sodium chloride is practically isotonic. Here we are watching what is isotonic solution. So which solution is isotonic with blood plasma? So 0.9% NaCl is practically isotonic with blood plasma and it's regarded as a standard. So when we are preparing parenteral preparation, we should take care about, we should maintain this percent of the sodium chloride in our preparation. A solution containing more than 0.9% sodium chloride is called hypertonic, and a solution containing less than 0.9% sodium chloride is called hypotonic solution. So these are the isotonic solution. You can see this is the isotonic solution. Here this is the plasma. You can see the blood cells. The shape of cells are very clear. Now here you can see hypertonic solution and hypotonic solution. So here you can observe this. Sometimes it produces the shrinkage of the cell, then it will produce the swelling of the cell. So we should maintain isotonicity, so we require 0.9% NaCl. Now we will see tonicity contributor, means why there is a need to maintain isotonicity is very important. So to avoid the destruction of red blood cell, as you can say the hemolysis, to avoid the irritation when we are applying the injection. So during injection there will be a pain in the nerve endings. So to reduce this pain we require to maintain isotonicity to avoid the irritation and the tissue damage. More important for large volume, for which are rapidly administered and extravascular injections. So these are the very important, these are the examples of isotonicity adjusting agent, or you can say contributor. We can use obviously sodium chloride, sodium sulfate, sorbitol, dextrose, mannitol, sometimes glycerin as well as lactose. Now we will see the next is antioxidants. So why we require antioxidant? What are antioxidant? So antioxidants is used to protect a therapeutic agent susceptible to oxidation. So particularly we have two type of antioxidants. First one is reducing agent and second one is blocking agent. Now what is reducing agent? The reducing agent, it's oxidize itself and is act as a antioxidant. And what is the role of blocking agent? It will block the oxidative chain reaction and it will used as a antioxidant. So these are the example of antioxidants as a reducing agents, ascorbic acid, or you can say sodium bisulfite. In this concentration range we can use this. And next is the blocking agents, for example ascorbic acid ester as well as butylated hydroxytoluene. So we can use this in this concentration. These are the antioxidants. Now next is a suspending agent, means when our preparation is suspension we require this suspending agents. So what is suspending agent? So the parenteral suspension must be of a regular small particle. It should contain a very small particle and it must not cake during storage. It should not produce a cake during storage. So this should be easy to resuspend. This is the most important requirement of suspension. That's why we require a suspending agent. So these are the example of suspending agent in this percentage concentration. So gelatin like methyl cellulose, pectin, polyethylene glycol, 4000, sorbitol. These are the example of suspending agents. Now we will see the chelating agent. So what is chelating agents? It will produce a complex and it will inactivate. It will produce the complex with the metals. So it will inactivate the metals such as copper, iron and zinc that generally catalyze the oxidative degradation of a drug molecules. So by using chelating agent we avoid the oxidative degradation of the molecules. So these are the example of chelating agent like aditate disodium, or you can say disodium aditate, calcium disodium aditate, and tetrasodium in this concentration range of the percentage. So these are the example of chelating agent. We can say chelating agent is a part of antioxidants only, because here also we are reducing the oxidative degradation of the molecules. Now the next is solubilizing and weighting agents. So what is solubilizing? Solubilizing means obviously they are used to increase the drug solubility by using the non-aqueous solvents. And what is weighting agent? So weighting agents are required for hydrophobic drug for their dispersion. Means weighting agent reduce the contact angle between the surface of the particle and the weighting liquid. So these are the additives as a solubilizing as well as a weighting agent, like a dimethyl acetamide, ethyl alcohol, ethyl lactate, polysorbate 20, 80, 40. This is used in the percentage in the concentration range. So these are the agents which are used as a solubilizing or weighting agent. Now next is the surfactants. So why we require surfactant? It is used to dissolve a water insoluble drug as a colloidal dispersion. We can say it's used to prevent a crystal growth in a suspension. We require a surfactant for parenteral suspension also to produce the acceptable syringeability, and for solubilizing steroids, so you can say any fat soluble vitamins, we require surfactants. Now these are the example of surfactants. This is all about additives. In the next lecture, we will see in detail the type of parenteral preparations. Thank you. If you have any doubts, you can email me on this email ID. You can contact me on this number. Thank you.